Mae West, the sultry, wisecracking star of Hollywood's golden age, was as extravagant in her dietary habits as she was in her on-screen persona. Obsessed with maintaining her curvaceous figure, Mae followed a bizarre high-fat, high-protein diet that included copious amounts of steak, eggs, and heavy cream, often claiming that too much of a good thing can be wonderful. She had an unshakable belief in the power of raw honey and oysters, considering them her personal fountain of youth. West's dietary demands on set were equally outrageous. She insisted on having her meals prepared in a specific way, often demanding that her steaks be cooked only in butter, not oil, because she believed it preserved her youthful glow. Her love for champagne was legendary, and she would start her mornings with a glass, swearing by its health benefits. Even more strangely, she refused to eat chicken because she thought it made women lose their curves. Despite her odd food habits, Mae West maintained her sultry looks well into old age, often claiming that her diet was the secret. Whether it was science or just her unbreakable confidence, one thing was certain: Mae West always did things her way. Marlene Dietrich, the enigmatic German-born Hollywood icon, was as disciplined in her diet as she was in her performances. Obsessed with maintaining her androgynous yet glamorous physique, Dietrich followed a diet that was both extreme and bizarre. She primarily survived on a diet of broth, boiled potatoes, and raw vegetables, often drinking hot water with lemon instead of eating full meals. Her strict routine made her famous for rarely gaining weight, even as she aged. Dietrich's dietary demands on set were equally eccentric. She required her personal chef to prepare meals exactly to her specifications, often requesting simple, yet incredibly specific dishes. One of her strangest food habits was her obsession with caviar. She considered it a source of strength and often had it as a snack. She also carried small tins of sardines with her everywhere, convinced that the salty fish kept her skin youthful. One of her most notorious habits was her refusal to eat any inedible parts of food. If a vegetable had a stem or a fruit had seeds, she would meticulously remove them before consuming it. Marlene Dietrich's diet was just as dramatic and disciplined as the woman herself, flawless, calculated, and utterly unique. Judy Garland, the beloved star of The Wizard of Oz, had one of the most tragic and bizarre diets in Hollywood's golden age. From a young age, MGM executives controlled her eating habits to maintain her youthful, petite frame. Studio heads forced her onto a near-starvation diet consisting mainly of chicken broth, black coffee, and cigarettes. They even gave her amphetamines to suppress her appetite and keep her energy levels high for grueling filming schedules. Garland's dietary demands later in life reflected the damage done to her body by years of extreme dieting. She developed an erratic relationship with food, alternating between periods of near starvation and binges on comfort foods like hamburgers, chocolate sundaes, and mashed potatoes. She was known to have strange cravings at odd hours, sometimes requesting entire roasted chickens in the middle of the night. Despite her immense talent, Judy's struggles with food, weight, and addiction became a tragic part of her life. The Hollywood system that made her a star also pushed her toward dangerous habits. Her diet wasn't just absurd, it was a heartbreaking reflection of the brutal pressures placed on young female stars in classic Hollywood. Jean Harlow, Hollywood's original platinum blonde bombshell, had a diet as unusual as her screen presence was dazzling. Unlike many actresses of her time who obsessed over strict diets, Harlow had an unconventional approach to eating, one that involved bizarre food combinations and a deep love for comfort foods. Her favorite meal? A bizarre mix of rare steak, salad drenched in Roquefort dressing, and a side of ice cream. She firmly believed that eating red meat kept her strong and full of energy, even though she often paired it with the most unlikely accompaniments. One of Harlow's strangest dietary habits was her obsession with room-temperature champagne. She claimed that chilled champagne upset her stomach and would refuse to drink it unless it had been sitting out for hours. On set, she often requested bowls of cold fried chicken, which she would nibble on between takes. Despite her indulgences, Harlow remained effortlessly glamorous, thanks to a naturally fast metabolism. However, her love for heavy, rich foods contributed to persistent health issues, including kidney problems. Her sudden and tragic death at just 26 left many wondering if her odd eating habits and unchecked health concerns played a role in her untimely demise. James Dean, the brooding rebel of Hollywood, had a diet as unconventional as his persona. Unlike the polished stars of his era, Dean had a notoriously careless approach to eating. He was infamous for skipping meals, surviving on coffee, cigarettes, and the occasional candy bar. When he did eat, it was often in the form of greasy diner food, his favorites being apple pie with ice cream, burgers, and extra crispy bacon. His idea of a balanced meal? A bottle of Coke and a pack of donuts. Dean's dietary habits weren't just bizarre, they were unpredictable. He would sometimes go days without eating properly, only to suddenly binge on huge plates of spaghetti or chili. His love for junk food was matched by his odd food requests. On set, he would demand bowls of peanuts but only eat the ones that felt right in his hand. He also had a strange obsession with raw onions, biting into them like apples, claiming they helped with digestion. Though his diet was erratic, it fit perfectly with his rebellious, free-spirited nature. Tragically, his reckless lifestyle extended beyond food, and his life was cut short at just 24. His diet, like his legacy, was one of nonconformity, messy, unpredictable, and unforgettable. Greta Garbo, the elusive and enigmatic Swedish actress, followed a diet that was as peculiar as her famously private lifestyle. Obsessed with health and longevity, Garbo was an early adopter of extreme health trends, including fasting, raw food diets, and bizarre homemade elixirs. She believed in eating to live rather than living to eat, often consuming meals that were more medicinal than enjoyable. One of her strangest habits was her love for garlic. She ate raw garlic daily, convinced it kept her immune system strong and skin flawless. She was also a devoted fan of yogurt long before it became a health craze, often mixing it with brewer's yeast and wheat germ for an extra nutritional boost. On the rare occasions she indulged, she preferred European delicacies like smoked fish and caviar, but only in small portions. Garbo's dietary demands were minimal but eccentric. She often insisted on eating alone, avoiding lavish Hollywood parties where heavy food and alcohol flowed freely. She would sometimes go days drinking only vegetable broth, believing it purified her body. Her diet, like her life, was a mix of discipline and mystery, proof that even in something as simple as food, Garbo remained untouchable and unique. Clara Bow, the original it girl of the silent film era, had a diet as chaotic and unfiltered as her personality. Unlike many of her Hollywood peers who followed strict regimens, Bow had an unapologetic love for junk food, particularly hamburgers, hot dogs, and milkshakes. She had a legendary sweet tooth and was known to eat entire boxes of chocolates in one sitting, often washing them down with Coca-Cola. One of Bow's strangest food habits was her obsession with chili. She loved it so much that she reportedly ate it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at times. She also had a bizarre superstition about food. She believed that eating chicken before a big event would bring her bad luck, so she refused to touch it before auditions or filming days. On set, her dietary demands were simple but eccentric. She often requested sandwiches stuffed with odd combinations like peanut butter and bacon or mayonnaise and bananas. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Bow had little interest in dieting and preferred to eat whatever she craved, whenever she wanted. Her free-spirited approach to food mirrored her rebellious, untamed personality, completely unfiltered and full of life. Marilyn Monroe, the ultimate Hollywood icon, had a diet as unconventional as her rise to fame. Unlike the strict starvation diets followed by many Golden Age actresses, Monroe had a peculiar yet oddly simple approach to eating. She started her mornings with a bizarre breakfast, 2 raw eggs whipped into a glass of warm milk. She believed this high-protein start gave her energy and kept her figure in check. Dinner wasn't any less strange. Monroe often skipped lunch and instead enjoyed a hearty meal of broiled steak, liver, or lamb chops with a side of raw carrots. She rarely ate elaborate meals, preferring plain, protein-heavy foods that she believed maintained her famous curves. Her sweet tooth, however, was undeniable. She indulged in hot fudge sundaes almost daily, claiming she had no guilt about treating herself. On set, Monroe's dietary demands were minimal but unique. She had a habit of drinking champagne with almost every meal and was obsessed with ice cream, often sending assistants to fetch it at odd hours. Despite her unusual diet, she maintained one of the most envied figures in Hollywood, proving that sometimes indulgence and simplicity can go hand in hand. Katharine Hepburn, the fiercely independent and sharp-witted star of Hollywood's golden age, had a diet as no-nonsense as her personality. Unlike many of her contemporaries, she had little patience for elaborate meals or food fads. Her daily diet was shockingly simple. She mostly lived on steak, vegetables, and a staggering amount of tea. She reportedly drank up to 20 cups a day, often brewing it so strong that it could strip paint. One of Hepburn's most absurd dietary habits was her love for burnt food. She enjoyed her toast practically charred and preferred overcooked, blackened meat. Friends and family often teased her about this, but she insisted that burnt meant better. She also had a deep love for homemade ice cream, which she would eat directly from the container with a spoon, not caring for fancy servings. On set, Hepburn refused to eat typical Hollywood diet foods. Instead, she packed her own meals, often consisting of peanut butter sandwiches on wheat bread, apples, and strong black coffee. She had little patience for indulgent or fussy eaters, famously saying, "Plain food and hard work never killed anybody." True to form, Hepburn remained unapologetically herself, on screen, in life, and even at the dinner table. Carole Lombard, the screwball comedy queen of Hollywood, had a diet as quirky and lively as her personality. Unlike many of her contemporaries who obsessed over maintaining their figures through strict diets, Lombard had an unconventional and unapologetic approach to food. She was a self-proclaimed junk food lover, with a special obsession for hamburgers and fast food, long before it was fashionable. She reportedly drove miles out of her way just to get the perfect burger, sometimes eating two in one sitting. One of Lombard's strangest dietary quirks was her love for absurd food combinations. She enjoyed dipping popcorn in milk, and was known to mix Coca-Cola with milk as a bizarre energy drink. She also had an undying love for spaghetti, often eating it for multiple meals in a row. Unlike most Hollywood actresses who avoided carbs, Lombard devoured them with zero guilt. On set, she had no over-the-top dietary demands, except that her meals had to be fun. She often brought boxes of candy to share with cast and crew, turning mealtimes into social events. Carole Lombard's diet, much like her personality, was full of laughter, indulgence, and a refusal to take Hollywood's rigid rules too seriously. Elizabeth Taylor, one of Hollywood's most glamorous and scandalous icons, had a diet as extravagant and unpredictable as her love life. Unlike many Golden Age actresses who meticulously watched their weight, Taylor indulged in rich, over-the-top meals with little concern for conventional dieting. She had a well-documented love for hearty comfort foods, often eating fried chicken, ribs, and mashed potatoes slathered in gravy. One of Taylor's most absurd culinary creations was her legendary peanut butter, bacon, and onion sandwich, a bizarre combination she swore by. She also had an intense obsession with chili, even publishing her own personal recipe that included an excessive amount of meat and spices. Taylor never shied away from decadent desserts either. She was known to eat entire trays of chocolate brownies in one sitting. Her dietary demands reflected her larger-than-life persona. When filming on location, she insisted on bringing her favorite American junk foods, including hamburgers and vanilla ice cream. She also had a peculiar tradition of eating caviar with potato chips instead of crackers, preferring the salty crunch. Though she struggled with weight fluctuations throughout her career, Elizabeth Taylor remained unapologetic about her love for indulgence, proving that sometimes, true Hollywood royalty eats exactly what they want. Lana Turner, the stunning blonde bombshell of Hollywood's golden age, was known for her flawless looks and dramatic personal life. But behind the scenes, her diet was anything but glamorous. Like many actresses of her era, Turner was pressured to maintain a slim figure, leading her to follow extreme and sometimes downright bizarre eating habits. One of her strangest routines was the grapefruit and black coffee diet, where she would eat little more than grapefruit slices and sip on bitter coffee to stay thin. She also had a habit of eating steak or lamb chops for breakfast, believing that a protein-heavy meal in the morning kept her energy levels high. However, she balanced her strict eating habits with an undeniable love for junk food, especially chocolate malts and cheeseburgers, which she would sneak in as guilty pleasures. On set, Turner had a reputation for being particular about her food. She refused to eat anything overly spicy or heavily seasoned, and insisted that her meals be served on fine china, even if it was just a simple sandwich. Despite her diet's ups and downs, Lana Turner remained one of Hollywood's most iconic beauties, proving that even the most glamorous stars had their fair share of absurd eating habits. Hedy Lamarr, the dazzling Austrian-born actress and brilliant inventor, had a diet as refined yet eccentric as she was. Unlike many of her Hollywood contemporaries who followed strict meal plans, Lamarr believed in eating whatever suited her mood, leading to some unusual food choices. One of her most peculiar habits was her obsession with soup. She reportedly ate soup for nearly every meal, convinced that it was the secret to maintaining her beauty and intelligence. Her favorite? A rich Viennese-style beef broth, often loaded with dumplings or noodles. Despite her European upbringing, she had an unexpected love for fast food, particularly hamburgers and French fries, which she would eat while wearing elegant gowns and expensive jewelry. Lamarr's dietary demands were simple yet odd. She avoided elaborate Hollywood meals, preferring home-cooked Austrian dishes like schnitzel and apple strudel. However, she had a strange rule. She refused to eat in front of others unless it was a formal dinner, believing casual eating was unladylike. Despite her refined tastes, she had a notorious sweet tooth, indulging in rich dark chocolate daily. With a mind as brilliant as her beauty, Lamarr's diet, like her life, was a mix of elegance, intelligence, and unexpected quirks that made her one of Hollywood's most fascinating figures. Joan Crawford, the ultimate Hollywood diva, was as meticulous about her diet as she was about her career. Obsessed with maintaining her striking looks, Crawford followed a strict and sometimes bizarre eating regimen that reflected her perfectionist personality. One of her most famous dietary quirks was her absolute obsession with salads. She believed that raw vegetables were the key to youth and reportedly ate salads with every single meal, even breakfast. But they weren't just ordinary salads. They had to be elaborate, often containing grapefruit, cottage cheese, and an excessive amount of vinegar, which she believed kept her skin glowing. She was also a fanatic about carrot juice, drinking it daily as part of her beauty routine. Despite her health-conscious approach, Crawford had some indulgences. She had a deep love for rare steak, often eating it nearly raw, claiming it gave her strength. She also adored ice-cold vodka martinis, which she drank religiously, even substituting them for meals on occasion. On set, she had strict rules. Her water had to be ice-cold at all times, and she refused to eat anything from plastic containers, demanding proper glassware. Joan Crawford's diet was a perfect reflection of her personality, controlled, glamorous, and just a little bit extreme. Whether it was food or fame, she approached everything with unwavering intensity. Ethel Barrymore, the regal and refined matriarch of the famous Barrymore acting dynasty, had a diet as traditional and sophisticated as her presence on stage and screen. Unlike many of her Hollywood contemporaries who indulged in fad diets, Barrymore preferred classic, hearty meals that reflected her aristocratic upbringing. She was particularly fond of English-style breakfasts, often starting her day with eggs, toast, and a strong cup of black tea. No sugar, no nonsense. One of her quirkiest dietary habits was her obsession with soup, especially thick, creamy chowders and broths infused with sherry. She believed warm liquids were essential for vocal health, and often sipped them throughout the day, even during rehearsals. Despite her refined tastes, Barrymore had a surprising fondness for buttered popcorn, which she claimed was her one true vice. On set, Barrymore's demands were minimal but firm. She detested overly spicy foods and refused to eat anything with garlic or onions, as she believed they interfered with her voice. She also had a strict tea ritual, insisting on loose-leaf tea brewed in a proper pot, never from a bag. Her diet was a reflection of her elegance, timeless, disciplined, and steeped in old-world charm, just like her legendary career.